Hi everyone, Nubkeks here, and welcome to actually our first post-placement game in Heroes, Hero League Heroes of the Storm. Yeah. Best intro, I know. In fact, let's continue on with the intro for a bit. In today's episode, we are gonna find out to which degree Celsius, not Fahrenheit, because US measurements are dumb. Let's be honest. Not biased. No EU bias here. Yeah. To what degree you will still be purged by fire, whence the fire cometh for thee in thine game of Heroes of the Storm. Sorry, I don't know. I'm very tired. I had 2 hours sleep last night, I think. So I had to look after my granddad. What we got to play Ragnaros, so we're going to be playing Ragnaros today. And we're going to be picking him up on Brax's holdout. But yeah, to get back to the actual point of the video, really, or one of the main points of this video, is we're actually going to be talking about, as I said, to what degree are you going to, by fire, be purged? How many insects are in fact going to die? Because Ragnaros has been nerfed, and I want to talk about how Ragnaros is going to be performing. We're going to discover that throughout this video, how he performs now post-nerf. Is he still first ban worthy? Is he still OP? What do I think of him? We actually got him as the first pick. The enemy team banning ETC over Ragnaros. Archie ban out Sylvanas. They grabbed 2, I think, pretty good picks in response. A Lunara and a Falstad. I actually quite like both of them. And we grabbed Malfurion and the Rexar. So pretty good picks overall, I have to say. Yeah, we'll see what exactly the other bans and other picks come out. We are hovering a Li Ming and a Chen, so we got a pretty solid team composition overall. I actually really like the double warrior with the Ragnaros. I'll talk about why if you get into the game, and then Li Ming for just some good solid range damage. I think that's quite nice. We might have a little bit of a difficult time wave clearing with this particular team. The enemy team will have better wave clear, so that's something to be aware of, but not necessarily a killer in that sense. Ragnaros' nerfs, he's got a number of nerfs in case you didn't hear about them. So well, first of all, they increased the cooldowns of his trait, which is, where he turns into a fort, which is called Molten Core, and Lava Wave, his heroic, which, shoots the big fire wave down the lane, the Lava Wave. They increased both of those by 20 seconds, so they're both 2-minute cooldowns now. They were both 100-second cooldowns before, 20% increase on those. They nerfed the damage of all of his abilities in Molten Core form by a little bit. I think they also nerfed the damage of his Q and his W. They basically nerfed his damages all around, and then they gave an especially big nerf to the damage of Lava Wave. So, of course, it still one-shots minions, but it will do less to mercenaries, it'll do less to heroes, less to bosses and objective stuff as well. So, for example, it will do a little bit less damage to the Zerg Swarm. I don't actually know how much damage it used to do to the Zerg Swarm. So you guys can tell me, because we obviously see it. I do pick Lava Wave in this. I think it's just the better heroic still, especially on this map. So you will see me get to use it against the Zerg Swarm at some stage, I think. And you can kind of let me know if it's noticeably weaker or stronger against that. It should be a bit weaker, but I don't know exactly how impactful that is. We did end up getting the Chen I was talking about. We got Tychus, though, instead of Li Ming. Again, another really good choice, especially considering the enemy team picked up Diablo. That percentage max health damage that Tychus is going to be able to do with his minigun is going to be very effective at taking him down. And then, he's just another really solid ranged assassin. I'm a big fan of him, actually. Yeah, the enemy team did get Diablo and then a couple of other picks, which my brain is not working well enough. There we go. That's what they got. They got an Alarak and an Oriel. Okay. They've got a pretty solid comp as well. They've got the one of my favorite combos, which is Oriel Lunara. That constant poison damage, just giving this constant stream of energy to Oriel. Very easy to work your heals around that. It's pretty nice. And right now I'm trying to decide exactly what build to go for. Looking at the enemy team, so they've got a relatively small front line in the sense that they've got Diablo up there, yeah, and then Alarak he's kind of like a melee or semi-melee, pseudo-melee mage. He's a strange sort of hero. He's not a full frontliner though. So they're quite backline stacked. They've got 2 very much backline heroes with, well, 3 if you include Oriel as well, with Lunara, Oriel, Falstad. They're quite stacked for that, so I'm actually going to go for a W build. I feel like the Q build is probably best against teams where they have multiple frontliners. I feel the W build is going to be good against teams with multiple backliners for just like good poke and getting good damage in on them. That was a pretty nice one right there. Chen going really low. We give him our E to help him escape, and he does just barely walk away. The Lunara damage actually still ticking on him, but he's going to be fine. Tychus going in, almost picks off Lunara actually. Does not quite have the damage for the kill. So yeah, I think, honestly, I don't know, I'm really curious about the Ragnaros builds. Because the E build has a really good win rate, and I haven't tested it out yet. I just feel so opposed to it. The reason is that the E builds, the level 16 talent, you basically cast a second E for free, which basically ought to mean that it's like half as powerful up until level 16. It's a huge power spike. So we actually get a double kill with the Meteor. That was one of the best ones I've ever done, ever. That was epic. Not that I've played a lot of Ragnaros, but it's working out actually a pretty damn good start to the game. We're half a level up with those 2 kills. I was pretty lucky actually with the placement of the Meteor. One thing I found actually as well was that you'll notice a couple of times in the game I go for a Meteor and then I don't quite place it correctly because I'm just not that experienced with Ragnaros, and it doesn't actually go off. You'll probably see that a couple of times. Similar to, you know, same thing can happen with Alarak with the telekinesis. That always feels bad. It feels worse than Alarak because, you know, you throw a Discord strike and you haven't actually pulled them back with your oh, never mind that. Chen taking a lot of hits here, but he is running away to the north. He's got almost no HP. Myself and Tychus attempting to defend. There you go. You can see I was trying to land the W in on top of Lunara, and I messed it up. Fired it off later, but it was kind of a bit of a panic W then at the end because I didn't activate it the first time like I intended, and it was much less effective than it ought to have been. Using my E to kind of boost away from this Falstad. Actually on a Hearthstone at this point. Very low on mana and health as well. Now we are being healed up by Malfurion. We kind of actually wasted some of his stuff there. He's trying to keep us alive. I felt like it was just a better situation to Hearthstone and come back in. We just got a kill, so the enemy team should be a little bit weaker. They won't be able to pressure my back too hard, and we should be okay. One of the things I'm trying to do in this video as well, and we'll be trying to do a bit moving forwards, I think in this rank season, is trying to be a little bit less negative. I was getting very negative and tilted. It's just a factor of kind of improving at the game, is that you just, you know, you see more mistakes and you got higher standards. Like I think in the last game was a really good example, is that I was very critical of the Artanis pick. A few people were kind of saying, you know, he's not awful on this map, and you know, he does some things well, and like that's certainly true. You know, he's not horrific, but he wouldn't also at the same time be ideal in my opinion. Like for example, we first picked Alarak. I think you would never first pick Alarak when there's a Thrall, for example. Thrall's just way better, or you know, something like ETC on that map. I can't remember what the bans were, but it was Battlefield of Eternity. I'm like, Alarak, sure, he does some things well, but there's a lot of better picks, and that's what I'm kind of looking for, or was looking for, is kind of like want to play the best, trying to be as ideal as possible. And while that's really good, and I'll keep trying to point that out for you guys, I think maybe also be a little more reasonable and just a little less exacting in terms of in terms of expectations, maybe a bit, just because I think that will actually apply a bit more. Like I don't want to just all the games that you guys are playing at all different levels, you know, I think it'd be very important if you're like looking at a pro game or Grandmaster level game against pros, like we were playing multiple times, but I think in general maybe not as important to do the absolute best thing in every situation. So yeah, I'll still point it out because it's useful, but we might be a little more open to slightly less than ideal picks, but still, you know, relatively viable ones. That being said, still not a big fan of the Alarak first pick on Battlefield of Eternity. Much prefer something that's actually good at racing, in my opinion. The enemy team does get the much better Zerg wave right here, and I am gonna be Hearthstoning and then attempting to run up top in order to defend. I want to use my trait here to defend. It should prevent damage to the fort. Basically, I take over the fort, my health bar, I get a new health bar, and that will replace the fort completely. So it will deny damage to the fort and also help us defend with quite a lot of AoE damage. Focusing the damage as much as I can on these guys at the back. Your E places this big explosion. You can see the W now fires a line of meteors, which are also slow, so using that to help our teammates pick up a kill on the Alarak. I keep mixing up Alarak and Artanis. And our trait actually doesn't last too long this time because the fort was taking damage, which means that your trait lasts a bit less time. Now, because multiple people did rotate up top, it was only Tychus left defending bottom, and the enemy team is getting a really powerful push on. And we actually sent too many people. I think with me on Ragnaros, I definitely want to be defending against the Zerg wave as often as possible, because, you know, the trait just gets quite a lot of value there. So I think I wasn't paying super attention. I think probably Chen, if I remember correctly, I think Chen probably could have afforded to stay bottom and would have been fine. Like, sure, we did get a kill because he rotated up top, but a fort is worth a lot more than a kill. So I think a Chen not rotating towards the top would have been fine. I think at Ragnaros, this early in the game especially, I think Ragnaros with the trait would have been more than enough to defend against the Zerg wave. That's a pretty good W through the enemy team. Oh, also, that level 1 talent I have, I was tired, so I forgot to open the talent calculator. But it has been nerfed as well. Basically, we used to need to get 50 stacks to improve our meteor. Now we need far less. I opened the wrong thing. Here we go. But yeah, it needs 75 now, so we actually haven't finished it yet. It's you know, that's 50% harder to complete. 50% more stacks you need to complete that quest. It's quite a bit, so it does add up. It's called Shifting Meteor. So it doesn't do anything until we finish the quest, but once we do, it will increase the duration of the living meteor by half a second, and then we can also reactivate it to change the direction, which is pretty nice. Going alongside this, at level 4, I did pick up Fire Ward, which will give us a charge of Spell Block, which reduces the next enemy ability damage we take by 50%, which is pretty nice against the enemy team. You know, it might deny like a Falstad Hammer or something like that, so I think it's a pretty reasonable option. The other stuff at level 4 wouldn't have been terrible either. They're pretty decent options as well. At level 7, picked up Molten Power, which will increase the damage of our Ws by 15% for every hero we hit. The next one, you see that little pentagon thing down the bottom left. Basically, that will fill up. We throw a meteor in, say it hits 2 heroes, 15% bonus damage on the next meteor for those 2 heroes for 30% bonus damage total. That was unfortunate down there by the Bruiser Camp, our death, by the way. Our Chen went a bit too ham. We tried to keep him alive and we died, unfortunately. It was just like an awkward situation. We really don't want to fight right now because the enemy is level 10 and we don't. So, yeah, I mean, we pretty much have to give up. Like, Shen goes in and dies, Rexar dies as well. So, this whole sort of situation went too bad for us. But you really want to play very, very, very passive. I'd gone in to poke with the W and just stack that up a bit. I wasn't really in any danger. Unfortunately, Chen followed a bit too ham and we did go down. Now, I just want to deny them this. I don't actually even want to stay to keep channeling. You can see I was starting to move off that point, but a nice flank from Diablo actually cuts me off. We can see the enemy Lunaris on the way as well. Falstad flying in too. I'm actually going to pop Lava Wave down this bottom lane and try to get into the fort. Unfortunately, we do get caught by the Diablo, who interrupts us with an overpower. The Lava Wave goes through the enemy team, does some damage, and kind of zones them out as well. Zones some of them to the bottom of the lane, which means our team is collapsing on Diablo. But Diablo is so tanky, he doesn't die. And in fact, it is Malfurion who goes down. Luckily, our team do manage to pick off the Alarak, so it's a 1 for 2. But the Zerg wave is pushing in. Our team chasing down the Oriole, but she is going to escape. I do recognize this guy, actually, Liquid. I recognize his name. I think he's a pretty good player. I think a couple of the guys in the team are good players. I actually have to say this was a very nice quality game. Big step up from the last game, which is, well, on the whole, I mean, Rexar dying there was not very ideal, but we'll see how the rest of this goes. Just trying to hold off the Zerg wave as much as possible. We have our trait available. Gonna pop that when the wave gets a little bit closer so we can maybe make use of our Q as well. Here we go. The gate has gone down, the tower's gone down. Just gonna try pop this stuff and zone them out. Gonna W through as much of the wave as we can. Trying to focus these guys at the back. They're the ones that do the most siege damage. And catch some of the enemy team if we can at the same time as well. What are they called? Guardians? So the Guardians go down. They're like kind of catapults. This is a pretty good situation for us. Falstad actually almost overstaying. In fact, definitely overstaying. He gets caught in a beautiful route by Malfurion. But a nice apocalypse from Diablo, and then in fact gusting us back, ensuring we get hit by that. The team is somewhat split. Does keep him alive, so well played by them. We're collapsing on top of Diablo now. He's very tanky, but not tanky enough, and he does go down. We redirect our meteor there to catch the Alarak, so we'll stack up. We do a bit more damage now with our next meteor. We also dismounted him, which is pretty useful. Having got a kill, we're moving in to attempt to take this bruiser camp. Let's get that for the team. We throw out a meteor. Again, we had a bit of trouble actually aiming that one, so we don't get too much value out of it. The team is collapsing on us. Rexar's just getting soloed by Lunara to the side. We mess up our Q on the Artanis, and Diablo with those souls actually respawning arrives back into the fight. 4 people dead. I'm the last one alive. We did take down Alarak, but quite the disaster, to say the least. Quite the disaster. We all go down, and Rexar is raging. I mean, Rexar overextended and got soloed out. So, gotta be honest, I think, you know, there comes a stage where you kind of lose the right to complain a little bit in that sort of situation. You know, if he hadn't messed up, maybe that fight would have gone better. Hard to say, of course. It's hard to say. One thing I was actually doing, and this is a good tip for you guys, is I agree with the Tychus here. It's, you know, that's just unnecessary rage in the team chat. I was kind of noticing that my hero damage was not very good. I felt like I was underperforming in this game actually so far, and definitely part of that as well is the new, basically those nerfs to Ragnaros, just slightly reducing his damage in multiple respects. I felt like that was kind of having a bit of an impact so far. Having a little bit of an impact, and it's been a pretty difficult game as well. No doubt about that. We are behind as well. Get a nice little damage on Alarak with that W, but he does just manage to get out with the telekinesis. We have kind of control of this top part of the map. One thing you'll notice with me using Lava Wave is that I'm tending to fire it when the enemy team will be wanting to move down the lane. You kind of get a bit of a feel for the timing and try to make the most use out of it as possible. This is a very nice gust by the enemy team into their fort and into a huge Alarak combo. I know I'm dead here, so I was just going to do as much damage as possible. I actually should have run more to the left to distract the enemy team even more and give my teammates, just be a kind of sacrifice for my team. Rexar is going to die, and potentially more people are going to die as well. Malfurion barely escaping. No, he gets picked off by the returning wave of Diablo's Fire Stomp, or Firestorm, whatever it's called. Tychus does look like he will. Oh, no, never mind. Tychus looks like he might go down as well. He has resistance from Odin, but I don't think it's going to be enough. He's just trying to dive there, do as much damage as he can before he dies. But that is another, I think that's another 1 for 5. So not going well, and we're 3 levels and a whole talent tier down. Not good. Not good at all. Level 13, I did pick up Resilient Flame. I think this is by far the best level 13. When you get stunned, you get resistant for 3 seconds, and you take 50% less damage. In my opinion, that's insanely overpowered, and absolutely against the Diablo. His Q can stun us, his E stuns, his Apocalypse stuns. They have so many stuns just from that one hero. It's actually so good. It makes you incredibly tanky. I think that's just an amazing talent. It's insanely strong. I'm not actually sure how the win rates of those level 13 ones compare, but I wouldn't be entirely shocked if they nerf this one at some stage. It just strikes me as by far the best talent in that particular tier. And we get the W through the enemy team, do some pretty good damage. Now, I think actually here it's kind of interesting. I probably should have fired the Lava Wave earlier in order to do maximum damage to the Zerg Swarm. I decided to wait a little bit and hopefully catch another wave of minions as well on top of that. And then there wasn't anything too important for us to you know, we're going to lose that stuff anyway. But yeah, that was kind of an interesting choice. Do we fire the Lava Wave as early as possible, kind of maximize the cooldown, and also have the Lava Wave, you know, do as much damage to the Zerg Swarm as possible? Or do we save it for a little bit longer, maybe catch the enemy team off guard a little bit? We actually didn't. They dodged it very well. And then catch an extra minion wave. I'm not sure. That's an interesting question. Anyway, this fight's actually going pretty well for us. Lunara has gone down, even though we lost Malfurion earlier. But unfortunately, the gust from Falstad comes out and completely disengages the fight. That was beautiful, because that was actually a big turn for us. It really turned around quite dramatically. Falstad, though, re-arriving, not sure what he was doing. Beautiful grenade from Tychus, knocks him and removes his trait, and then we land the meteor on top of him. Placed it well that time, and we do pick up a kill on the Falstad. I don't know what he was doing. I think he assumed we'd backed off, or maybe there's only one person, and he was just being greedy and looking to either push a wave or get a couple of stacks of a Q quest on a hero. Not entirely sure. Actually, I'm not even sure if he went for a Q quest in this game. Don't remember. But yeah, something to watch out for. Level 16, I did pick up Giant Scorcher. I didn't go for the W talent here, which is called Meteor Bomb. What that does is the meteor explodes at the end of its path and does damage. I'm not a huge fan of that one. It strikes me as pretty weak. It strikes me as something that's pretty difficult to hit. Whereas Giant Scorcher is just insanely strong. What this does is when we hit someone, heroes that we hit with our Q will burn for 9% of their maximum health over 3 seconds. That's a massive amount of damage, and especially against Diablo, it's going to be a huge amount of damage. We catch Lunara pretty much with an entire meteor, and then a beautiful grenade from Tychus follows up when we pick up the kill. She did not realize just how overextended she was, and well played by Chen and the Tychus in particular for picking that up. Rexar not microing the best, and Misha does go down. But this is a pretty good situation for us, though. With Lunara dead, like, we've got a very good potential to pressure them in here. Going for W on the enemy team, feeling a bit vulnerable because our teammates are not quite here. The Apocalypse comes out, we actually get caught in that. We can see the resistance on us. Even though Falstad is focusing us, it's not doing too much damage. We actually manage to sustain through that. Try to get the Q on Falstad, but the damn bird is too fast and he flaps away. We get stunned once again, then we get stunned another time, and once again in the middle of the enemy team we take a ton of damage, but we're so tanky thanks to our level 13 that we actually make it out. I could have actually afforded to go way more ham in that fight and got more damage and sustained with my Q and relied on my teammates to follow up, maybe get a kill. I didn't realize actually just how tanky I would be with that talent, and because I backed out maybe a bit too early, Tychus does end up going down. He continued to take that fight, and then Shen unfortunately went down as well, so that was very close to going well for us, but kind of turned around. That was a really bad fight. I feel like we've had a couple of really good opportunities to come back in this game. We had, unfortunately, just a really good gust from Falstad, and then that fight was going really well, and then we just kind of screwed it up a little bit as it kind of went on longer. We got a bit greedy, overstayed our welcome a little bit, and maybe didn't have the best team fighting. I include myself in that. But I mean, yeah, between the spell shield and that resistant, I'm actually tankier than I expect. Though it is, of course, difficult to calculate. It's one of the things with Ragnaros, right, is that you are completely immobile, effectively. I mean, you got your E, which is a long cooldown, and it gives you a very small and short speed boost. But oftentimes you're also using that on an ally, so it's very awkward to actually get in, and that's very important. You haven't needed as much to make use of Ragnaros' basic attacks or to maximize the Q damage recently, because he has been just so OP. Right, he's been very OP, so that basically disguises a lot of his weaknesses, and just kind of makes up for them with the fact that he's so overtuned in other regards. The enemy team they got the boss and are gonna get a full stacked Zerg swarm right here. Malfurion slightly delays them, which is actually kind of useful, I guess. It will mean we'll have more time to defend the boss before we have to deal with the Zerg wave. Might buy us a few seconds, which, it could be a difference, and certainly he didn't lose out too much on that. I wasn't actually paying attention as to whether he might have put himself in danger, but he got out just fine, so let's assume he's been playing pretty well too, so I think we can safely assume he had a pretty good idea. We fire off the lava wave as the enemy wave arrives at our base, and we actually catch Oriel in it too, so I got a bit of damage down on her. Not going to complain about that. Odin is popped and we are on the defense. This is a fully charged Zerg wave, actually down to half health already though, thanks to that lava wave and Odin. And yeah, but it is pushing the core, so this is very scary. And the enemy team about to hit level 20, so this is a very realistic game losing situation, no doubt about that. The Alarak combo does miss, which is really good news for us. A big apocalypse comes out, we get caught in it. Diablo catches us again and flips us over. Falsa comes in to try and kill us, but we have resistance thanks to the Diablo stuns, and we're just gonna go in ham here. Nice crystal Aegis from the Oriel, keeps herself alive, plus some stuns as well. Slightly miss up my stutter stepping. Diablo is on top of us, flips us over. Thank you for the resistant, my friend. We get a heal from the Malfurion, and we're backing off. Now, we got the Lunara poison on us, but on looking at our health bar, it looks like we're going to be fine. I stay close enough to give a speed boost to my teammates, but I go down. Oh, I was kicking myself here. What happened? It was kind of a little bit of bad luck, and, a little bit of a lack of clarity in terms of the Lunara poison. But what happened right there was Lunara was actually still alive. She activated her W, which extended the duration of the poison. Most importantly, she also has, what's it called? Unfair advantage at level 13. which is whenever she slows someone, the poison does 50% more damage, and obviously activating her W slows you down. So the increased damage from that level 13 talent basically changed the poison damage to go from leaving us, barely alive but still alive, to actually doing enough damage to kill us. Kind of took me by surprise. I hadn't been anticipating it at all. Obviously I thought it was safe, went a little bit greedy trying to get an E on my teammate, and we paid the price. Not a huge mistake, but definitely a mistake that can happen. Kind of a bit of bad luck. I mean, I didn't get too mad about it, or I didn't blame myself too much. I kind of said, you know what? Hey, if the scaling was a little bit different, if they were a level up or something at the time, I would have been dead. So, you know what? It's not something to get tilted about. It happened. It's not the end of the world. We have hit level 20. I did pick up heroic difficulty, which I think is probably one of the best level 20s in the game. It massively increases the power of your trait. It's insanely good. So it reduces the cooldown by 50 seconds, which is nice. And Molten Core also does 50% increased health. It does 50% more damage and a 50% increased health as well. I believe this also empowers your heroics and gives Sulphurous Smash, the other heroic, longer range too. But yeah, it doesn't quite half the cooldown, but you can almost use Molten Core twice as often. It also does 50% more damage and has 50% increased duration and health. In my opinion, it more than doubles the usefulness of your trait, which is insanely good, and it makes it a very, very powerful tool. You're going to see me trying to use that at least once in this game, I think. Yeah, now we will get to use it at least once, it looks like. Pretty complex situation here. Level 20 on both teams. Our top keep is half dead. Our bottom keep is gone. Very scary that the enemy team could potentially backdoor. We've got pretty good vision in the bot. You can see Malfurion's actually set up some vision things here around the boss area, which is helping us. Gotta throw the meteor in. Just scout out that boss. Chen is scouting out as well. They're not there. They're actually coming into the top right here. Misha scouting it out. Misha gets pulled back and picked off. She's going to be dead for 22 seconds. Shen moves forward in a little bit of trouble. Tychus pops Odin, and Diablo has engaged. Looks like we are going to get ourselves into a big fight. Panda Pals come out though, keeping Chen alive, and he is fighting there. I'm actually just running, legging it towards towards this fort here, trying to make use of this heroic difficulty Molten Core. You can see we huge damage to Diablo. Lunara is on the run as well. The lava wave, I also popped it with the Molten Core too. It's going to do empowered damage. It powers through. It picks up the Lunara, who is trying to escape. She did not notice that wave coming in. I actually cancelled then Molten Core early, and that is 3 kills for our team. No one on our team died. So this is a huge win for us. That's 40 seconds on Diablo. He did not have enough souls. 50 seconds now still remaining on Lunara and on who else died? I think it was Oriel. Can't quite see the portrait, and I didn't notice. Falsa's still alive. He is defending. We are making a beeline for this boss right now, but that was a really great fight for us. I was a bit scared, honestly, going for that fort to try to turn it into the Molten Core, but I figured this was the best thing to do. Falsa comes in with an attempt to steal, slightly panics actually. I think he was under pressure. I was under a lot of pressure in this game too, I have to say. I'll talk about it more in the end, because this is kind of crazy right now, but you could see the pressure, the stress on the Falsa. He actually moves onto the boss point even after the boss is taken. Definitely a very, very, very high pressure game. Alarak attempting to defend. He moves forward. We're going to just start burning down these towers. Gonna walk away from the Falstad. Falstad gets greedy, makes another huge mistake. The pressure has gotten to him. He tries to get maximum value out of his W, which puts him out of position, and our team is more than happy to punish him. And with one hero dead, this is a very real game-ending attempt. We move into the enemy team. We're trying to get some damage down, but Malfurion, the healer, actually goes down early. The fort dies. I was ready with the Molten Core to pop in as soon as that happened, and there we go. We're in Molten Core. We're raining damage down from above. The Diablo and the Alarak almost dead. They are retreating to the top. We pick Diablo off with our E ability. Our W ability picks off Oriel. That's the healer down. Chen is chasing Alarak, and he dies. We're onto the core, 90% on the core. Most of that Zerg wave is dead. 6,000 health left. Lunara is attempting to defend, but we are zoning her off. Chen jumps in on top of her as well, and Lunara dies. Molten Core expires with 30% on the core. This is going to be game. The entire enemy team is dead. Easy, says Tychus. I actually have to admit, I find that quite funny when someone says easy when a game is ridiculously hard. And we pull the victory out. Couldn't believe it, but I was so stressed this game. Like, at this stage, I breathed this massive sigh of relief. My shoulders were tense. I'm not kidding. My shoulders were so tense in this game. A really difficult game overall. I think part of that, of course, as well as the fact that I was playing a hero that I was inexperienced on, because I just don't have many games on Ragnaros, really. He's the newest hero. And then, of course, the fact that this is the first game I played after he was nerfed. So it was basically learning the nerf. We actually got 272 rank points for that. I think the enemy team was I think there's actually not only a large personal adjustment, but also a large favorite adjustment. I think the enemy team was higher skill rating overall than ours, which is part of what made that so difficult. But yeah, it's like trying to calculate, okay, well, not only work out how to play this hero with the talent build I'd only used once before, but then also working out, okay, I also have to apply how he's been nerfed to this. There's the talent build there, guys. Heroic difficulty, MVP. What a fucking talent. I love it to bits. And we are powering our way through Diamond 3. So yeah, I mean, there you go, guys. In terms of Ragnaros, right, let me just break down my thoughts now on Ragnaros at the end of this video and tell you what I think of the hero in his current form. So actually, let me pop over here and let me just fill you guys in on his win rates. So overall, at all levels of play in the last week, which includes a couple of days of the new patch, and then the days of the release patch for Ragnaros, he has a 60.7% win rate overall in all leagues. If we filter it for just the current patch, he has dropped massively to a 52.1% win rate overall. More importantly, if we filter it for Master, which is the level we're actually playing at the highest on Hot Slogs, he had actually in the last week 63.6% top win rate. By the way, Thrall is second. Thrall is insane at the moment. Earthquake, man, Earthquake is like crazy. And then, by the way, Raynor is third. I got so much hate on my tier list. I got so much hate for putting Raynor as an S tier assassin, but he has a 61.7% win rate. Just saying. Also synergizes really well with Thrall. Just saying. If we filter it for this patch, though, Ragnaros has dropped to a 54.7% win rate, and he's like way down. He's about like the 20th highest win rate hero in Master. So he's no longer OP. Absolutely not. No longer OP. The increased cooldowns and then the overall nerf to pretty much all of his abilities, I think, is a very substantial nerf. He is still a very strong hero. Don't get us wrong. He's still very strong, but he's no longer overpowered. I think he's probably still on a number of maps tier 1 hero, but he's not an S tier hero, I don't think. Definitely not. Maybe on some maps, but overall I don't think he's an S tier hero. Yeah, I think, you know, in terms of like, can you let Ragnaros go through the draft and be picked by the enemy team? I think, you know, potentially moving forwards, yes, that's definitely an option. It's definitely an option. I would certainly be careful though. And you know what, you know, for this week, for the rest of the week, you know, as people get used to the new patch, I don't think, because he's still a very good hero, don't get me wrong, he's still very good, so I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with banning him out. You know, I think you'd be better off banning Thrall, probably, but I don't think you're going to lose out too much if you ban the Ragnaros, you know. And also bear in mind, very important, this is something very important to keep in mind with Hero League, you don't want to tilt your teammates, and people, you know, it takes a while for people to adjust to the new meta and to adjust to a new patch, and you might tilt your teammates very much if you let the Ragnaros through. So I think, you know, as people adjust for the next few days, I'd certainly consider banning him. And like I said, he's still I think a tier 1 hero, but he's not tier S. I think there are other better bans. Just mention what are his weaknesses, just to mention those. What are his weaknesses? Well, the main weakness for Ragnaros, unquestionably, is that he's difficult in the team fight, and like I said, you do need to get value out of his Q and out of his basic attacks now, and you know, he might even get more nerfs and more tuning tweaks even, you know, not necessarily nerfs, maybe just tweaks, we'll have to see. But if he does, I'd expect, you know, getting more value out of his basic attacks is going to become even more important, and that is difficult because you're talking about a hero that has, you know, you get some self-healing from your Q, but it's pretty limited. You know, it's nothing on a Thrall level or nothing on an Alarak level. It's much weaker than those, and you've got almost no mobility. you know, Thrall's actually somewhat difficult to play in that sense as well, because you do have to worry about being caught and bursted down as Thrall. It's definitely something you have to watch out for. And, you know, Thrall Wind Fury is much better than your Blast Wave, your E is for mobility. And then Thrall also has a root, which he can use somewhat to protect himself. And then Earthquake, and then substantially more self-healing than Ragnaros. So on Ragnaros, it's definitely difficult. But then again, the Resilient Flame talent at level 13, as you saw in this particular game, can be really strong in keeping you alive. Though it does depend on the enemy team having stuns, but it's, you know, against someone like Diablo, who has multiple stuns, very, very nice talent right there. Very nice talent. I think Lava Wave is still the best heroic. As you saw in this game, I think it's very important to make the most out of Lava Wave, to use it in a way that not only, you're not just using it for wave clear. I think if you just use it for wave clear, which is what I think a lot of people do, you're going to lose out a lot of value. I think the best way to use Lava Wave is to wait a bit on the cooldown. You're going to get wave clear value out of it whenever you use it regardless, and then try to use it when there is a team fight near the lane, such that the enemy team distracted by the team fight, or, you know, potentially just cut off, right? Because it's not like during a team fight you might not have options in where to move. Moving into the lane might be your only option in order to actually team fight well, and then suddenly you've got that Lava Wave, you've timed it well, and it comes down the lane and it just decimates them. You saw me trying to do that multiple times in this game. In fact, I think probably nearly every time I used Lava Wave, apart from the one time where there was like a full Zerg Swarm, like pushing core, where I just used it for the wave clear and to destroy the Zerg Swarm. Apart from that, I think nearly every time in this video I was using that Lava Wave to basically do two jobs at once. Basically, whenever there's a team fight, try fire it down. Certainly there were a couple of times where it didn't work. You know, the team fight happened beside the lane, they never went into the lane, the Lava Wave didn't actually get any team fight value. But there were a couple of times where that Lava Wave did go through the enemy team. Crucially, at that final team fight that won us the game, hey, big ass team fight, we hopped in to our Molten Core with the heroic difficulty empowered. We sent that empowered Lava Wave down the lane. Then we used our abilities well, and what do you know, it went through the enemy team and helped us secure a couple of kills as well as pushing the lane. So that was really important that we used it in that sense. So I do suggest to you guys that, you know, try to look into that. It certainly depends on getting a feel for the game, but I mean, like, people like these were good players. That was a good enemy team we're going up against. Like, you know, the Falstad, I think, was kind of, I think like probably Rexar is kind of the weak link on our team, and Falstad was the weak link on their team in this game. Made a few mistakes, but overall, like, their team was very strong and they played very, very well. But you could see that even those guys, you know, they dodged some of the Lava Waves very well, the obvious ones, but there were, you know, in that last fight, they didn't have the option to dodge. Even, you know, good teams are not always going to have that option. But yeah, that's what I think of Ragnaros. I think he could be, you're going to see more of his weaknesses show up, which is the fact that he is a hero that wants to get into melee, but finds it very difficult to get into melee. And he does not synergize well, because he's very spell-based, he does not synergize well, or as well, with heroes like, you know, like, let's say like a Tassadar or a Medivh or an Uther, you know, these powerful shielding heroes that are really good at empowering, or like heroes that would typically empower, you know, the Butcher or Illidan, or someone like that. These basic attack heroes tend to synergize with those much more than Ragnaros as an ability to base damage hero will. So it's going to be more difficult to draft in such a way that Ragnaros will be empowered to get into the front line. That's what I think. That's my take on him. But I think he's a very cool hero. And yeah, excited to see how he goes moving forwards. Those are my thoughts. I've gone on for a very long time, so I'm going to call an end to the video here, and we can talk more in the comments if you like. But thank you for watching, guys. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed what was hopefully a more positive take on the game as well. You know, not saying I'm not going to rage in the future. I will absolutely rage and be salty. I think it's entertaining, and can also, I do try to make it insightful. I don't want it to be too negative, but I'm going to try to be a bit more positive and just, yeah, focus on the pros and the of the game a bit more, and not necessarily just over focus on the cons, or being overly critical in a way that might not be super helpful to all levels of play. You know, we can give a bit of leeway to people not being super ideal. I think I just kind of was getting into that like real pro, like playing against the pros main mindset, and letting that dictate my commentary a bit too much. I think a bit too much. Anyway, they're my thoughts. You can again discuss it in the comments if you like, and I'll see you all next time for more Heroes of the Storm. Bye bye.